the East is succeeding and we are failing, that the sun has risen in the East and has set in the West. And for those of us who are from the West, that's a melancholy truth indeed. Okay, Charlie.
Well, George, as I live and breathe, it's a real pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. The pleasure
a long
is mine.
time coming. I know that it wasn't a long time coming for you, but it was for me. I'm a big fan of the Moat Show and of yourself and your work.
Thank you so much.
We've come down to it. I think history has
Absolved
accelerated.
us?
I wish it has. Unfortunately, it's not doing us much good at the moment. Now we come back together, and now it's the Brits and the United States being represented inside of Russia, talking about what has happened, and how did we get here? Here we are here in Russia, which seems to be kind of the future, I guess you would say, of the modern age, amongst with China, with Iran, with these other countries.
Yeah.
And I really want to get your thoughts on this.
Well, first of all, thanks for the opportunity. It's terrific to talk to the American public, and I always prioritize talking with the American public because of their size, because of their importance in world events, and because, as Oscar Wilde put it, we are two countries divided by a common language. And increasingly, we are united, actually. And for much of my life, I always talk about the decline of my kind of politics. It began in the United States. In the words of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Californication of British politics began, as the name suggests, in the United States. And we now have political elites that are virtually indistinguishable. People thought they were tossing a hand grenade, human hand grenade, into our political elites when they elected Donald Trump. They thought that he would drain the swamp, that he would change everything, lock them up, and all the rest. But they're still in control. The same elites that predated Donald Trump are back in control in the United States. And they're very definitely still in control in Britain and in the European Union. So we find ourselves in Moscow and recognize the tremendous extent to which this is the kind of country that we hoped to live in. It's the kind of country that we hoped our own countries would be. Believing in God, believing in the family, believing in honest work and industry, a fair day's work for a fair day's pay, a government that looks after the people rather than looking after others who have nothing to do with us, a government in which a hope for the future was always present. And that only briefly obtained in my country, in my life. Until my generation, we believed that life would be better for our children than it had been for us. This belief no longer exists. Instead, a certainty that life will be tougher for our children than it was for us is the prevailing orthodoxy, and it's correctly, logically based. So we look at Russia, in the words of Elon Musk's father, who said it to me, this is the new Rome. Moscow is the new Rome. In all its majesty,
Yes.
And in all its sense of oneness. It might not be the case everywhere in Russia that the capital city looks and feels like a new Rome. But there are many cities, and I've been in many in Russia, and perhaps especially in China, even third-tier cities in China, beat the pants off first-tier cities in your country and mine.
Absolutely.
50,000 square miles of high-speed rail in China, 0 square miles of high-speed rail in the United States. And in Britain, we have spent the last 20 years in British politics trying, and so far failing, to get a high-speed rail link between London and Birmingham, a distance of 100 miles. And we still haven't got it. So everywhere you look, every indices indicates that the East is succeeding and we are failing, that the sun has risen in the East and has set in the West. And for those of us who are from the West, that's a melancholy truth indeed.
Oh, it's a fact. It's an absolute fact. So, George, I really want to try to unpack a somewhat sensitive topic. So, in America, and in fact, in all the West, right, we're constantly told that violence is not the answer. That we're both worshipers of Jesus Christ. We understand that there's a just form of this and an unjust form, and many unjust ways of this, right? So with putting this in just a thought bubble, if we will, because now we're all clipped now to be able to say what we should and what we shouldn't say and what can be taken down. But inside of a thought bubble, governments don't seem to have any problems with violence. We can bomb Iran to the Stone Ages, or we can say that we are going to. All these governments feel completely at ease and at will to attack whomever and wherever they want to. Venezuela is another example. But you mentioned when we were talking before, it's like, well, at least you have a constitution. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I think we can objectively say that's a good thing. But is there a peaceable solution this way? Or do we all just have to kind of go down with the ship? We can go kicking and screaming. We can go silently. When I moved to Russia, my family was called cowards. How dare you leave? You should stay here in America and fight. And that's like, I have children. And y'all are telling me that that you have to do everything by peaceable means. I'm not encouraging anybody to do anything. This is why I moved to Russia, because this is the only peaceable solution that I could find to save and protect my family. But how about for the everyday British chap? What about for the American one?
It's a great question. I'm not advocating this going into exile for everyone, and it was forced on me and on my good wife. So much for democracy. As President Francis Urquhart said in House of Cards, democracy, it's so overrated. The truth is that freedom, liberty, democracy are increasingly just hollow words in our countries. And if we want to be free to speak and to just live the lives that we want to live, we have to go into exile. I mean, our children were attending a Roman Catholic school, so they had some protection. But for those with no protection at all, your kid could change clothes and identity upon entering school and then change back again upon leaving school. And you, as their father, would have no legal right to know that they were doing so. So your son Jack could become Jacqueline during the school day, and you would have no legal right even to know that that was happening. Your children would be taught that all kinds of practices were legitimate. Your children would be prematurely sexualized, and you would have no say in it at all. and you'd be committing a crime if you withheld your child from school as a result. So even just to live a godly life is increasingly impossible in Western countries, and is laughed at by the elites, left and right. The amount of cross-dressing going on in politics beats transmania into a cocked hat. People who told us for decades that they were the left have turned into a caricature of that. Liberalism has captured the whole political class, conservatives as well as liberals. And so people like us who don't believe in abortion, who don't believe in euthanasia, who don't want to see drugs legalized, who hate the spread of pornography and the whole transmaniac LGBTQ plus agenda, there's no place for us in Western countries.
No.
And there's no party to vote for that's going to change that, because it's captured all the parties. So whilst I'm not encouraging everyone to do what we have done, I'm just explaining why we have done it. The courage of one's convictions are, of course, a matter for each of us. Again, I'm not advocating that people commit professional or political suicide by saying what's really in their heart, but I have no choice but that, because I'm a man of conscience. I believe that conscience is our daily communion with God, and I must follow my conscience. And that has led me east, because I'm freer to do that in these countries than I would be in my own country. What an irony that is. We were told our USP, unique selling point, was that we were the free world. They used to use that phrase.
Well,
I'm older than you. I remember when that was the rubric. We are the free world. The United States is the leader of the free world. But actually, we're no longer the free world. And places that we caricatured as the heartlands of tyranny turn out to be more convivial for our beliefs than the West. So I'm confident that the world is changing, but time waits for no man. By the grace of God, I have 6 children. I have 5 grandchildren, and only one of my children is yet married. So I guess there's going to be a lot of us. By the grace of God, I hope there are an exponential lot of us. But I still believe that what we stand for is right. And I still believe that right will prevail. I might not see it. And as Martin Luther King said, I might not get to that mountaintop. Well, I still believe that my children and my grandchildren and yours also will get there, to the promised land.
Please God. That's all that matters really at the end of the day, for sure. As far as civilization is concerned, do we just say, well, we just wait and see what happens? Well, if it dies, it dies. If it's gone, it's gone. I mean, of course, it looks very much like it's on its last leg, that there's not much more left to give. Like we've discussed, Donald Trump, that was the opportunity. The last people of this generation that was ready to give a damn about, the Constitution, some principles, some basic things, not some tremendously high Christian morals, but just some basic concepts. And we had the first presidency, and then we skipped, if you will, one. We went down a rabbit hole, and now Trump looked like he was going to bring us out, but he didn't really actually bring us out in the second one. Everybody, People here, Russians, keep talking to me. They said, aren't you going to go back now? Trump said that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. Can you imagine if you said that 30 years ago? Well, bravo. Wow, that's fantastic. But that's essentially the only thing that he officially did. Yeah. But you talk to everybody back in the States and they're like, it's worse than ever before.
Yes.
The actual situation. Yeah. Is there any hope for those people back?
Well, I think it would be too Darwinian to abandon hope and imagine that we were all just going to go quietly into that good night, that somehow that was predestined. I think the struggle continues. I'm just struggling from afar, trying to influence what happens at home, of course, and have some influence at home. But I just can't be at home. But you're right to identify the failure of the Trump second term as a turning point. His first term was willfully destroyed by the Russiagate hoax and by the unwillingness of the deep state to recognize the purpose that he had evinced, at least. Whether he meant it or not, it's another matter. You're bound to wonder. But he said he was going to drain the swamp, and they didn't want the swamp drained, so they destroyed his first term. I think they stole his second term. I don't believe that Joe Biden won the 2020 election. I'll go to my grave saying that. But he had the opportunity in the official second term to change everything. And he hasn't just failed to do that. He has taken us backward with gigantic steps with him. Well, he might say a man is a man, a woman is a woman, and imagine, as you say, there being anything remotely controversial about that. It's a measure of how things have declined that's seen as something profound. But it's only words. With all of his actions, he has wrapped himself in the clothes of the people he said he hated. The only people he's locking up are the strangers that God called on us to welcome and to treat as the children of God, the people that we're supposed to see as human beings like us. The elite are not at all locked up. They are determined to lock up the rest of us. And they are winning. The names are different. John Bolton now looks like a dissident. But Rubio and Hegseth and the rest with their evangelical fervor, they're in control. And the very worst of America is now running the show. God help us. God help the people of the United States. We don't know where it's going to end, but some new things are now apparent. The idea that the United States could prevail in war against China, especially China and Russia, is now laughable. I see you smiling. It's laughable.
Yes.
They can't even stage a pilot rescue in the deserts of Iran. They are being beaten soundly to the extent that Trump looks like he's having a nervous breakdown because they picked a fight with someone not just able, but ready and able to fight back, and with powerful allies. And they're being resoundingly defeated. Sure, they're killing a lot of people. Sure, they're destroying a lot of buildings. But that's all they can do. They can't change the regime. They can't change the facts of geography or maritime reality. They are completely at sea, if you'll forgive the pun. And everyone can now see that. How embarrassed must the Venezuelan people now feel that they went quietly into a good night, that if they'd even fired a shot, they could have stopped. But the Iranian people are giving a lesson, not just to the US, but to the global south and to China. And I think also to Russia. There are many people in Russia saying to me, look at how Iran is fighting. We could have finished this special military operation very much quicker than we have. And so new realities are holding into view. And from my point of view, they are almost all positive. It's not that I want my people to live in the sunset. I wanted them to get close to the people where the sun was rising and offer what we still have to offer. And we still have many things to offer. In the field of AI, in the field of medical technology, in the field of literature and culture, we are not nothing, you know. I mean, the Chinese haven't invented the Beatles yet. They haven't brought a new Elvis. The things that we have achieved, the good things that we have achieved, can be of use to the people of the East, where the sun is rising. We could have, in other words, got underneath the same sun, and we could have gotten nourishment and warmth from it. Instead, like King Canute, we stood at the edge of the beach and ordered the waves to retreat. But the waves didn't. To be fair to King Canute, he knew this and deliberately staged this to show his followers who believed in the divine right of kings that God controls everything, not kings. But anyway, the story stands. King Canute failed to stop the waves. We have failed to stop the sun rising in the east. And instead of cuddling up to and offering goods and services to the people of the east, we have cursed the rising of the sun. But the sun doesn't require our approval as to where it rises.
Do people in the West really have the political will to start doing what needs to be done to actually change things? Now that the figurehead has gone over to the other side, so to speak, is there political will that's there? You have great leaders, orators, I guess you would say, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and people like yourself as an example, encouraging people to see the truth, see what needs to be done. Do you believe that there is a way to shut this down, to change the system?
I do, because as I say, I remain a believer in the essential correctness of our message, and therefore I must work on the assumption that eventually we will persuade people. But there are real material difficulties involved. I mean, Tucker Carlson is a friend of mine. I speak to him a lot, and I have been pushing him to run for president now for well over a year. But there are real material difficulties in him doing so. I still think he might do so, but there's the material difficulty of being killed.
Of course.
Now, he's a believer. In fact, he's on a journey. I think he'll end up as a Roman Catholic myself.
Blessed be God.
But the reason I am who I am is I'm not afraid of anybody, only of God and my wife sometimes. So I always say to them when they threaten me or people who care about me say they will do this to you, whatever decides what will happen to anyone, it ain't the guy that's sending you an anonymous message on internet. So I'm ready to face anything. But not everyone is. I mean, Tucker is a man with a good life, with a beautiful family. His family don't want him to run for obvious reasons. But I pray nightly that Tucker Carlson will be the next president of the United States. And then I'll definitely move to the United States.
Sure.
And others are on a journey. Candace Owens is the world's preeminent broadcaster now. She beats even Tucker in terms of numbers. And new generations. I gave a long interview. Boy, was it a long interview with a Gen Z influencer called Sneeko in the United States just the other day. I didn't know who he was, but my older children did and encouraged me to do it. And this man has big influence on over millions of people. And by the end, he was agreeing with me on everything, and has since said so in post-interview statements and so on. So I believe that the human spirit is eternal, and that therefore nothing can be ruled out. And I say this, I've been saying it for decades, that there are decades when nothing happens, but there are weeks when decades happen. And you can't predict when those weeks will be. If you look at the ICE protests, for example, where Trump tried to scapegoat one part of the human population of the United States, the uprising was big. It didn't go anywhere. It's like a rocket goes up like a rocket, comes down like a bird stick, because people didn't generalize from it. And there was no cohesion. It was pussy-hatted liberals and radical leftists and so on. It was a mixture of people. But the moment may come. Tucker may provide the leadership for that, that people can coalesce. Even disparate political ideas and forces can coalesce behind a new human hand grenade that this time is a more wholesome one. So I still think it can be done. To believe otherwise would be to believe that the human spirit is dead, and I don't think that the human spirit will ever die. And so I'm optimistic. You might think that's ridiculous given the state of the world at the moment. But the attribution of blame and guilt to those responsible for the state the world's in at the moment is beginning to achieve critical mass. So, for example, when Keir Starmer blames Russia for the absolute state of Britain today, everybody laughs. And his opinion poll rating is now 11%. 11!
11!
Macron is not much more. Merz is not much more. So these people who are responsible for bringing us to this sorry pass, people know it's them. They haven't yet worked out how to change things. In the Vietnam era, which, unlike you, I actually was there and remember and saw in real time it developing. In that era, street protests and sit-ins and work-ins and teach-ins and all the other ins that were new forms that developed, they spread throughout the world, and they empowered a lot of people. But the ruling class learned how to divide us. They learned how to have us chasing rabbits of all kinds everywhere, turned us against each other, mainly by this Californication tactic that I described earlier. So we'll have to come up with new forms, and it's much easier now. I can't stress this enough. The fact that a lot of people know me in Russia is due to one thing only: the internet. When I started in politics, we had to type on a manual typewriter, on a stencil, punching holes in that stencil, our message. Then we had to take it out of the typewriter, put it on a drum of ink, and turn a handle. then get a guillotine and cut into 4 pieces our message, and then go out physically on the street and find a bemused passerby to take it from our hand. Look at the situation we're in now. Just on one platform, Facebook, in the last 28 days, 101 million people have viewed my content, just on Facebook. Then add all the other platforms. That's power. That's influence. If the rulers could have disinvented the internet when it was invented by Al Gore, they would definitely have disinvented it. They had no idea the genie that they were releasing from a bottle. And that's just me. This Sneeko guy's probably got more than that.
Yeah.
Although he's probably banned off Facebook. But the point is, righteous ideas, revolutionary ideas, can now be disseminated at the touch of a button to hundreds of millions of people. What an advance that is. When we find the right vocabulary, when we find the right iconography, when we find the right flags to bear, we can prevail. I'm absolutely sure about that.
One last question, if I may, on this point about Tucker's presidency, or just any future hope for somebody to take up the flag, like you say. And I'm hopeful that it'll be the people who were there for the first round of MAGA, if you will. I heard somebody make a very, very astute claim the other day that it said, I find trying to explain Israeli corruption to a MAGA person is much like trying to explain biology to a liberal. And we're in this horrible situation, right? Because everybody feels horribly betrayed. I don't mean that as an insult to people who really want to make America great again, right? Their own country great again as a righteous thing.
Sure.
So I don't want to be insulting to somebody, but I think it's worth just lingering on this concept that people have got to quickly become detached from what something was and realize that that thing may no longer be there, at least the figurehead that is representing that. And that people are, attacking, Tucker, people are attacking Candace, people are attacking these people who I believe are truly genuine people that want the best for their country, and to stop saying, wow, stop hanging off of the coattails of Donald Trump, who's trying to, have his will be executed over the rest of the world, and start looking for another leader. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, look, to paraphrase, the devil works in mysterious ways, and the penetration of this monstrosity of Christian Zionism into the evangelical and broader Protestant body is complete, and it's the devil's work, and it's complete with all the tools of falsification, a fake Bible, the Schofield Bible, the complete misrepresentation, that's not strong enough a word, of Scripture. And the message of Jesus is drowned in this ludicrous contradiction of the Judeo-Christian there's no such thing as a Judeo-Christian tradition. Jesus was crucified at the demand of these people. His salvation, which could have been voted for, given it was Passover, given the tradition of freeing one of the condemned men, was them that chose Barabbas. So what is this Judeo-Christian philosophy? I believe that Jesus is the Messiah and that he will return. They believe that Jesus is in hell, boiling in his own excrement. They believe that the Virgin Mary was a prostitute and that Jesus was begotten by a Roman soldier. what do I have in common with that? This is the antithesis of everything that I believe in, everything that any Christian believes in. These people, they kiss in an idolatrous act a wall whilst a few hundred yards away, if that. I forget now the last time I walked it might be 200 yards away, is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where Jesus bled. But they never go there. Try searching for a Western politician kissing the stone on which Jesus bled. You won't find it. Only J.D. Vance, by the way. You won't find anybody else. They're kissing a wall, which, as it happens, I think is a wall of a Roman fort, but let them believe otherwise if they wish. They, Hegseth, openly aches for the rebuilding of a temple that Jesus demanded be torn down. Jesus is the temple. So this perversion, I go as far as to call it that, this perversion of Christianity that the Protestants and particularly the evangelicals are responsible for has led millions, tens of millions of people down a blind alley, that we are supposed to worship the golden calf of Netanyahu and Zionism, which has nothing whatsoever to do with religion. Everything to do with an ethno-religious cult of supremacy. We have to break that. And Tucker is on that journey. Candace is on that journey. I'm so old, I remember when both of them were supporters of Israel.
Yeah.
And now Israel would kill them if they could. And God forbid, maybe will. That's quite a miraculous transformation. And you've got to expect that, influential as they are, Tucker and Candace and others, even Bannon to some extent, are influencing a very large number of people. And that's why in opinion polls in the US, the support for Israel has plummeted to undreamt of levels. I mean, I never thought the day would come when more people in the United States would oppose Israel than support it. But we have reached that point.
Yes.
And amongst young Jewish people in the United States, there's a decisive majority now opposed to the terms of the relationship between the US and Israel. So transformation is occurring. Miracles have not ended. They might take a little longer than turning loaves and fishes and turning water into wine. They may take a little more hard work than that, but miracles have not ended.
Amen. George, thank you very, very much.
I really enjoyed the talk.
Likewise.
It was
Likewise.
different kind of discourse than I normally find here.
I love it.
At economic conference.
I absolutely love it.
Very good.